Analytical. In standard linguistics, the Arabic root KTB, or kataba, is defined by its results: the act of writing, the recording of text, or the production of a book. The System 19 framework isolates the root into three mechanical nodes: kaf, ta, and ba, treating each as a functional component. Viewed through this lens, KTB is a mechanical blueprint mapping the steps to capture, process, and store information. This sequence describes a universal operation of information physics. The human act of writing is one localized expression of this deeper algorithmic process. The algorithm dictates the exact transformation of active, kinetic movement into a stabilized, permanent foundation. To understand the architecture of universal memory, we must deconstruct these variables individually to see how they interact as a single machine. Human communication relies on an automated protocol operating at the level of fundamental physics, turning chaotic signals into ordered reality. Focusing exclusively on the cultural definition of writing masks these underlying mechanics, leaving the universal law of information storage unexamined. Instructive. We begin with the letter kaf. In the System 19 hierarchy, its numerical value of 6 designates the state of active propagation. This node functions as the active signal, the raw kinetic movement or held intention that initiates a process. As a value of 6, it represents current in its most volatile form, existing as pure movement before it has been recorded or anchored. This is the living action, the unrecorded command, or the force of a projection before it reaches its destination. Because this signal is pure movement, it lacks the internal structure required to survive as a permanent record on its own. Action that is not processed will eventually dissipate. To prevent this loss, the system requires a secondary variable to act as a structural filter. The letter ta carries a numerical weight of 14, a value that functions as a systemic threshold or checkpoint. This node acts as a transition gate, often modeled as a dual slit or a narrowing scanner that organizes the incoming flow. Raw signals require this specific gateway to interact with reality. Without being formatted through this threshold, information remains chaotic and unreadable. Within this 14-value gate, the signal undergoes alignment, filtering, and precise measurement, stripping away noise and leaving only the essential pattern. This mechanical necessity ensures that abstract movement is converted into a measurable pattern that can be integrated into a foundation. By acting as the bridge between raw energy and fixed structure, this gateway allows movement to become a quantifiable unit of information. The final step involves the letter ba. Its numerical value of 10 represents the terminal state, the grounded foundation. This node is the board or the storage layer, providing a permanent field where the process signal can finally land. Upon landing, the signal shifts from an active frequency into fixed geometry, physically embedding itself into the substrate. The value of 10 signifies a container that stores impressions, functioning like a hard drive storing data or soil preserving a seed. Once the pattern is buried in this foundation, it is stabilized and protected from the decay of time. Data buried in this substrate remains present even when the surface layer is removed. The imprint exists as a latent memory field. This substrate effectively captures the initial energy of the kaf and the structure of the ta, ensuring that the movement is preserved as structural memory. Synthesizing, these three variables function as a unified machine for reality generation. This is the operational definition of kataba, movement passing through a structuring gate to become stored reality. This abstract model mirrors the human act of writing precisely. A thought begins as a moving intention, passes through the symbolic constraints of language and grammar, and is fixed into the physical medium of a page. The same mechanics apply to a legal decree, a social obligation, or a physical law. Each involves fixing a dynamic pattern into a stable foundational field. The human practice of writing follows a fundamental physics law of embedding fleeting patterns into the memory structure of reality. The system expands further through the scaling prefix all. In System 19, all designates the paired current or the overarching field that connects individual processes. Applying this to the root results in Al-KTB. Within this framework, Al-KTB is the connected field of all stabilized patterns and stored memories. This is the repository where every processed movement and every fixed action is preserved. This field holds the encoded experience and structural laws of a system, acting as a living archive of every signal that has passed through the gateway. Existence itself is an immense topographical structure composed of these preserved movements. We have traced the progression from a single letter to a universal architecture of recording. Kitaba is the mechanical act of imprinting fleeting movement into the permanent memory structure of the universe.